everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Never Seen It. This is a podcast about movies that we haven't seen yet. My name is Betsy. I'm your host this week, and I'm here with Trent.
Betsy, I am sick of these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday podcast.
All right, taking artistic liberties right out the gate, I see. We are in week 5, our final week. We've reached the end of When Animals Attack. And of course, we mentioned it at the end of the last episode. If we're being honest with ourselves, this is the movie that we basically designed the entire series around because we have been trying for years to find a way to finally watch Snakes on a Plane.
And this is not the first time we have created an entire series just to watch one movie.
Nor will it be the last.
Nor will it be the last, exactly. But you're right, this is a movie that we've been trying to find a place for basically the entire life of the podcast.
Because amazingly, despite it being as old as it already is, you and I have never seen Snakes on a Plane.
No, and I feel like the reason why we haven't, number one, it came out before we were together, and number two, it just seems way, way too dumb.
It was a cultural phenomenon based on a stupid idea. They knew it was stupid. They made it anyway. It is very self-aware, and either you're going to be into that or you're not.
Yeah, to the point where the thing that I remember most about this movie is not about what it is, because you know what it is by the goddamn title. No, it was actually the controversy behind how you wanted to present the movie. Because if I remember right, early on in the process, they wanted to make this kind of a squeaky clean, fun romp in the sky, and you're not going to have a whole lot of, I don't know, adult themes, let's say. But then you signed on Samuel L. Jackson, who at this point in his career was getting very, very famous for his one line that he has to say in every fucking movie. And I guess not even a line, it's really 2 words, or 1 word if it's hyphenated. He has to say the phrase motherfucker in every movie that he happens to be in, to the point where it's kind of become a joke that he has to say it in everything he's in.
And when somebody said, what if we make a movie and it's called Snakes on a Plane and get Sam Jackson?
And we can get him, yeah.
You have to lean so hard into the bit to really make use of his talents, if you will.
Sure. God, I remember even at the end of that one Avengers movie where he's being blipped out of existence and he's fading away. As it's happening, he says, mother... and he goes away.
It off.
Yeah. Which by comparison, those movies have to be very, very clean. They're PG-13 at worst.
You were expecting children at these movies.
Right. So Snakes on a Plane. Obviously, we know what the movie is about.
There are snakes. They're on a plane.
I know, but how we get there, how long they're on the plane.
How many snakes? What kind of snakes?
What is the reason there are snakes on this one plane? What are the subplots? Who are the characters? Is it crime related? Is it drug related? Is it fucking zoo related? I have no idea what is going on this plane.
Was it a mistake? Did somebody release the snakes? Is this a whole plot? Why are we taking this plane down? Why do we care? All these questions and more must be answered, Trent.
But do they, though? In a movie called Snakes on a Plane, I might think to myself, maybe I actually don't need answers to all of the questions as long as what I am shown is satisfying enough. What I'm most worried about, Betsy, is this movie is like an hour and 45 minutes. We have covered on this same series movies that are less than an hour and a half. Where are they possibly going to get an hour and 45 minutes out of Snakes on a Plane as a concept?
What the hell kind of plot are they going to be throwing at us that it goes on for this long?
I know. That's my biggest question mark here.
Well, other than Sam Jackson being in this, I don't know anybody else who's in the movie. I don't know anything about the plot because, frankly, you get it. You get it from the name of the movie.
Of course.
They can get into the meat and potatoes when we actually watch it. All they care about as filmmakers at the beginning is getting you through the door to watch the film. But do you know anything else about this before we go and finally watch this movie?
No, I got really nothing here. I don't know if the plane is actually going to survive. I don't know how many people are going to die. I assume people are going to be dying. I don't know if there's going to be any fucking cameos that are showing up in this movie. And I don't know what the snakes are going to look like. In 2006, and this is relatively early when it comes to, good looking CG, and this is not a high budget kind of a movie. So I fully expect it is going to be campy bullshit, and I'm ready for it.
Well, let's hope so. For now, we're going to go and watch Snakes on a Plane, and we will be right back. And we're back. That was the cherry on top of the sundae that was our series of Animals Attack, Snakes on a Plane. Trent, how are you feeling after watching this movie after it has been out for 20 years?
Oh, God.
Almost 20.
Yeah. I cannot believe that movie is as good. And I'm saying quality. That movie is fucking amazing for what it is.
Hands down, this is the best movie we watched this month. As far as
Yeah.
like quality,
Yeah.
script, the way it is edited, the acting, just fundamentally, it is a different approach than the rest of the movies we covered.
100%. They knew exactly what they were trying to make, and they made that movie. Now, I will say, the controversy that I remember going on the internet back in 2005, when this movie was first kind of in the ether, I was right in assuming that this was supposed to be a PG-13 movie, but they went back to film more scenes after they were all done in order to, I guess, put more gore into it, put more fucking titties in the movie, and to have Samuel L. Jackson say his world-famous line.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Trent. Didn't this movie start out as a joke? Wasn't this just something somebody once said online? Like, next thing you know, we're going to get a movie starring Sam Jackson about snakes on a plane. And then because it was such a popular, stupid thing on the internet, they turned it into a movie. Am I misremembering that?
You are. Part of that whole thing about Sam Jackson and saying the famous line that he says in the movie, that was apparently the backlash that came from realizing, oh, they're not really going to go for it. They're making a movie called Snakes on a Plane, but it's not going to be what you want. They're going to really pull back, and it's going to be kind of lame.
They wanted it to go more ridiculous, more insane, go for the R.
Have some fucking balls and entertain us.
Have some dignity, man.
Yeah.
Make it ridiculous.
Yes, exactly. And that's what they did. I'm so happy that they did that. Because as we've been covering more horror movies, you can tell the ones where they pull back a little bit and they want to be able to put this out to more people, have more people be able to watch it, because PG movies and PG-13 movies can basically have anybody come. It was around this era where filmmakers were starting to learn, hey, maybe let's make some rated R movies. They found that out with the first Deadpool movie. That movie became the highest grossing rated R movie of all time. And it was a Marvel movie. Up to that point, there were no other Marvel movies that were rated R except for the really, really early ones like Blade.
There is something to be said about just knowing what you are making and fucking going for it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about appealing to a broad audience. Sometimes movies are not meant to be for everyone. They are supposed to be for the specific group you want to come see your movie. If you want to make a fucking dumbass movie like Snakes on a Plane that is a very hard R-rated movie, go for it. And they did. And the fact that they went back in response to what people were saying on the internet and made it more insane, I love that so much because I'm watching this movie today and it lives up to its reputation.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to be an insane movie. I just didn't know exactly what direction that meant. Is it going to be cheesy and ridiculous? Is it going to be action-filled? Is it so bad it's good? Or is it bad, but in a way that they're like, no, we know we're doing this on purpose.
Yeah, because most of these movies that we're kind of referring to here, they're really low budget, kind of straight to DVD type movies. With this movie, you got a script, you got a special effects budget, you got some actual good actors in here. Because normally these movies, they have a bunch of nobodies, or they have like one actor that you recognize their name, but they haven't done anything forever. I'm kind of referring to Cocaine Bear because there's only a few people in that movie that you actually know their name, but they don't really go for it in Cocaine Bear. They really go for it in this movie.
This is the movie you wish Cocaine Bear had been.
Yes, because they go full bonkers the entire way through this movie.
Oh, the snake attacks when they begin do every stupid, absurd thing you could imagine. It's like the fanboys of the internet said, what if a snake bit some woman on the boob? What if it bit some guy's dick?
Yeah.
What if a lady went to puke into her puke bag and a snake popped out and bit her tongue?
Betsy, that was my favorite one when it popped out of the puke bag.
It didn't need to be here. But every single time, you and I were screaming with delight.
I do not get surprised at movies. I do not really fall for the jump scares unless, there's a really, really good reason. They got me like 3 different times. The bag was one of them. When Juliana Margulies was in the cockpit looking for the other pilot, she's looking down the hole and the snake jumped up at her. That really got me. And the last one is when all the oxygen masks dropped down and all the snakes dropped down with it. That was so great.
When things started popping off, it went to like a 15 every single time.
Yeah, everybody's running around. Everybody's climbing over the seats. Everybody's screaming.
And it goes on for so long.
Yeah.
The initial attack is like several minutes. Like there's a woman and there's one like climbing up her dress and it bites her in the face. And everybody's climbing over chairs and they're trying to get their feet up off of the floor. And it's chaos and you do not know what is going on. And even all the people you are rooting for, all the ones you do not want to have something bad happen, they're not off limits. A child gets bit by a cobra.
Yeah. Nobody is safe. And I've said many, many times, I love it when filmmakers have the balls in order to, kill a kid or in this case, injure a kid. You get really worried about that kid because you see him get bit.
I got more invested in all of the people in this movie than I have in any other movie we've watched the whole month.
Oh, yeah.
They are infinitely better at making you care in the few moments we spend with them before they get bit by a snake.
I said in the intro, Betsy, that I was really curious how they're going to fill this 1 hour and 45-minute movie. They used every single minute very effectively. You introduced everybody. You introduced why, the Sam Jackson character and the kid, I'm just going to call him the kid. You know why they're important and why they're on this plane. Then you get everybody else in the airport. You get everybody coming onto the plane. You get a little story about everybody. Yeah, some of them are just, stereotypes, like the rich businessman who is complaining about not being able to be in first class. And he has to sit next to the barking dog and the crying baby, and he's like, oh no. But stereotypes are what work in movies like this, so that you can actually cheer when when the business guy gets constricted and swallowed whole by that boa.
And the thing that I kept thinking would happen in Cocaine Bear happened in this movie instead. There's a little bitty dog in Cocaine Bear.
Yeah.
Like, well, I know what kind of movie this is. The bear's gonna eat the dog. The dog made it to the end of the movie. Not in Snakes on a Plane.
No.
That businessman chucked the chihuahua at a boa constrictor.
I was so happy about it, though.
And that woman just screaming, how dare you? How dare you throw my dog?
I hate you.
But he gets his immediately.
Yes.
Immediately after feeding that dog to a snake, he also gets eaten by the same snake.
Betsy, I think you're going to agree with me here. I was getting total Train to Busan vibes throughout this entire movie because it's on a public transportation thing. We're all very constricted. We have thousands or hundreds or however many snakes there are on this plane coming after you. You have to create this barrier. You have different sections of the vehicle that you're in.
You have to keep moving, everybody. The back of the train is not safe. The back of the plane is not safe. Move to the front. Move to the front. And they keep doing the same thing again. Like, we have to create a barrier with all the stuff, like it worked so well the first time.
Right.
But you're right, I hadn't considered that, but it is similar where you're in a finite amount of room. There's only so many places you can even go to get away from the snakes. And clearly, they're gonna get you eventually because they're in the fucking works. They're up in the cabin up above. They're below. They're underneath. They're fucking everywhere.
And I think the reason why both movies work as well as they do is because they have such, it's just so frenetic. Everything is popping off at all times. You only get very, very few moments where we have to make a phone call to the home base, where you go up to the cockpit to check on the pilots. And thankfully, they don't do that all that often. You have to get checked in every so often just to see what's happening on the ground. But for the most part, we are in that plane.
So speaking of other movies that we were thinking of while watching this, I could not help but giggle when Sam Jackson had to go down to reset something manually. And I'm like, oh no, Trent, they're doing it to him again. It's Jurassic Park all over again. We started the month talking about it while watching Deep Blue Sea.
Yep.
That was Jurassic Park, but on the water. Everything that played out there was, let's make Jurassic Park, but worse. Here, it's not that in any way, shape, or form, except this one. He has to go down into the bowels of the plane and reset something manually so they can turn the air back on. And I immediately turned to you and I was like, why? This is what happened to him in Jurassic Park. He had to go to that other place and reset something. And then, of course, it's just his arm that we see later.
Right, but he survives this one.
He does survive this one. He is the Laura Dern in this movie.
Okay.
He gets to be Laura Dern on the walkie-talkie saying, where do I go? What do I do? And then just, fend off the snakes as he goes. And he finds some more supplies down there. But it doesn't play out the same way as Jurassic Park, but I did immediately think of it. And I don't feel like that was an unintentional writing choice.
I agree with you. I just wish if they were going to do it and it was specifically an homage to that, I wanted it to feel or look or sound much more like that moment. But you can't just do it all the way. It's too on the nose that way. But yeah, I mean, Snakes at a Plane is equal parts like animal attack movies, disaster movies, horror movies, and comedy. It's all put together and it all works.
Somehow, it really shouldn't work, but because everybody is in on the joke, from the writers to the directors to the FX people, there's not one person in this movie who is unaware they are making a film called Snakes on a Plane.
To the point where, Betsy, I saw this in the trivia and I cannot believe that both of us missed it while watching the movie. When the male flight attendant is trying to help people along, there's a snake that comes after him and he's standing right next to a microwave. He picks up the snake, throws it into the microwave and hits a button to turn it on and the snake explodes. Once I read this fact in the trivia, I had to go back and see it for myself because I missed it. The guy picks up the snake, throws it into the microwave. We get a shot from the inside facing out so you can see the guy's face. Then it cuts outside of the microwave to the guy's hand pushing buttons on the microwave. And the first button that he presses is labeled snake.
It's a blink and you'll miss it joke, and we both missed it.
As if it was like popcorn or coffee or something like that. He hits snake, start.
I didn't catch it in the moment, and then you showed it to me afterwards, right before we started recording, and I was laughing so hard I was almost crying.
Uh-huh.
That's the effect this movie has.
It's such a chef's kiss moment to this masterpiece of a movie.
Are there more of those in this, or is that the only really blatant one?
That was the only one.
Listen, Trent, the movie hadn't even fucking started yet, and it just said the word snakes for the title card.
Yep.
And then a second later, you get on a plane, and the giggle I elicited just from the word snakes because I had such anticipation for watching this absurd movie.
Yes. They didn't even have that title when they were making the movie. The placeholder title that they were using while making the movie, while actually filming it, was Anaconda 4.
I like that Cocaine Bear was always called that,
Yep.
and they couldn't come up with something different.
Yep.
And this one is kind of the opposite. It took them a while to get to Snakes on a Plane. They got Sam Jackson. They were going to change it, and he said, no, I won't do this movie if it isn't called Snakes on a Plane.
It was presented to him with the title Snakes on a Plane, and after he read it, he immediately said yes, basically because of the name. If you change the name, I'm out. And yeah, Betsy, this movie had like a $33 million budget from New Line, by the way. A real studio put this out. $33 million budget, and it made like $65, almost $70 million at the box office. Not to mention, I'm sure it made a fuckload of money on DVD and Blu-ray.
Because this was the primo time for DVDs.
Well, yeah, it's before streaming, so yes, of course.
It was the infancy of streaming, basically. In 2006, I
Yeah.
think Netflix definitely existed, but I don't know if they were doing
They
streaming
did not
or
do
not.
streaming until the late 2000s.
Okay. So we were just about there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. You would have had to go rent this. You would have had to buy a physical disc to watch Snakes on a Plane.
And you would have needed to go to the theater to watch it immediately. Nowadays, studios, after they put it out in the theaters, if they put it out in the theaters, it's out there for like 2 weeks, and then it goes to on demand for like $20. You can rent it once.
Or you can wait 20 years to watch it like we did.
Yeah.
But Trent, I think that's a good place for us to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and then we will be right back to talk a lot more about Snakes on a Plane. Are your ears tired of the same boring podcasts? Is the wait until the next episode of Never Seen It too much to bear? Then why not try Never Seen It premium content? The exclusive episodes on patreon.com/neverseenitpod take care of those hard-to-clean areas in your mind. It can handle dramas, romance, horror, and so much more. Use Never Seen It premium content during dental work, while skydiving, or even in your car. It's even gluten-free. So what are you waiting for? Try patreon.com/neverseenitpod today. So Trent, although we really enjoyed this movie, it is not without plot holes. There are
Sure.
definitely some things in this that made me go, that makes no fucking sense. So the movie starts with this guy riding a dirt bike around Hawaii, and he happens upon a murder. This group of mafia guys, ?
I have no
They
idea.
don't really explain it. This tough guy is about to be prosecuted, and he instead kills the prosecutor. And it's a whole like family dynamic, and they all say, oh, we're part of a crime syndicate, but we don't know anything about that. And the guy witnesses the whole thing. The next shot, they're in his apartment. How the fuck did they know who he was? Because the cops found a can. They found a Red Bull can, which they were clearly a sponsor in this movie because it shows up a few times.
Oh, we're going to get to that later.
So they found a can with his fingerprints on it. That makes sense how the FBI found this guy. How the hell did these crime guys find out who he was?
Crooked cops. That's the obvious explanation. If the bad guys have cops on the inside feeding them information, how else would they have found that out?
Okay, I will accept that as an answer, but in the moment, before any of that was explained, I was like, this makes no fucking sense.
I mean, they had a guy on the inside doing the baggage loading of the fucking plane.
Okay, this is my second problem with the movie. They say, oh, we laced all the lays with snake pheromones to
Yep.
make them all crazy.
Yep.
And they show the flight crew up in the top of the plane as they're boarding, putting lays on them. That is not how it works. They put the lays on when you arrive to Hawaii.
When you leave Hawaii, why are they going to give you a lay?
They're not going to do that. As far as I know, I have never heard of that custom being extended when you depart Hawaii.
The only explanation I can give you, Betsy, and this is a stretch, it's because aloha means hello and goodbye.
I mean, maybe. It's entirely...
It's the only thing I can think of.
It is an entirely possible thing. I've just never heard of that going that way. I know it is a thing that happens when you arrive to Hawaii.
Sure.
It just seems unusual to do it on the way home. That's all.
That's all.
It's a very nitpicky thing because I have to find something to complain about with this movie.
Okay, as long as we're complaining here, they missed a great opportunity here. At the end of the movie, Keenan is up there in the cockpit. He's got the landing gear coming down. Betsy, I so wished that they used the opportunity here when the compartment where the landing gear is opening up. I wanted more snakes to fall out of the plane at that point.
Because it is a nondescript number of snakes. We do not know how many
and
snakes there are.
Everywhere in this plane.
Yeah, there's also...
You're telling me it didn't get into the landing gear?
It would make sense. You're not wrong that they should have gone that way, but at that point, they're like, we've just done so many snakes. We couldn't possibly do any more.
Seriously, Betsy, I was so disappointed. That would have been the cherry on top of the entire experience.
There is no such thing as too many snakes in Snakes on a Plane.
Yes. But other than that, Betsy, the only other complaint I have is the same complaint I always have when there is just a disgusting amount of product placement slathered all over the movie. I wrote down every single brand name that I was able to spot. You already said Red Bull. Then we have Purell having a very prominent placement with that rapper guy. Then we have the other FBI guy on eBay bidding on a Pamela Anderson poster. Then we have at least like 2 or 3 different Pepsi products. There's Pepsi, there's Diet Pepsi, there's Mountain Dew, and I think Dr. Pepper got in there. One of the flight attendants brings a San Pellegrino water to the kid, and Kenan Thompson is playing a PSP, and one of the kids is playing a Nintendo DS.
The PSP would have been pretty new in those days too, would it have not?
And so was the DS, yeah.
Yeah, 2006, when did those come out?
Like 04, 05.
Yeah, they would have been pretty fucking new in those days.
Uh-huh.
So speaking of that, gaming is a critical piece to the plot of this movie because both pilots die and they need somebody to land the airplane. And the rapper volunteers his bodyguard / friend, Kenan Thompson, and he says he can do it. He doesn't explicitly say he is a pilot or has any flight experience.
Yeah.
He just says, I have 2,000 hours logged.
He volunteers that information.
But what he means is he has done 2,000 hours in a flight simulator game. Now, Trent, I have myself never played a flight simulator game. You are a gamer, but I don't think you've spent too much time in anything like this.
Not a ton, but I have played one of the more recent Microsoft Flight Simulator games on my Xbox, to the point where I actually got into a plane in the game from our local airport here and flew all the way to your family farm because it was actually mapped out in the game.
It was geo-mapped correctly.
Yeah, it was exactly where your family farm is. I would not say that I am any kind of like simulator aficionado, but those games are really, really intense for what Kenan is talking about. It's not actually a flight simulator. It is literally just like a dog fighting game that he's probably talking about because there was no simulator games ever released for the PS2.
I like that that's your quibble. It's like, yeah, there's some really good flight simulator games, and you could probably learn a lot of the rules of flight, but not on the PlayStation 2.
That's right.
That's the one thing that stops it from being believable. And you know, I think I knew that at some point, that Kenan Thompson was somehow in this movie and had something to do with flying. But when you're trying to avoid things about the movie, you just sort of see it and then compartmentalize it.
This is actually what I was reminded of because I heard that a chihuahua got fed to a snake and I knew that a guy got swallowed up. So at some point I was told that or I heard about that. But other than those things, I knew nothing else except for, you know, the famous line.
Every time a new person showed up in this movie, I was like, wait, is that Taylor Kitsch? Why is David Koechner here? Oh, it's Elsa Pataki. We haven't talked about her since we watched the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah. And there was one guy here. It was the guy who was super nervous about flying. He was the guy on his honeymoon. I recognized him from one of my favorite TV shows. It was a show on Showtime from like 2003 to 2004, Dead Like Me. He was only on like 1 or 2 episodes, but his character in the show kind of matches the character in the movie where he's really, really fidgety and not really comfortable around anybody. So I definitely recognized him, but only after he was on screen for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 scenes. I recognized the gal with the dog, but I don't remember where from.
I think you probably recognize her from Flight of the Conchords because I was going through her filmography. I know her because she was on the TV version of Clueless in the 90s, which
Okay.
I very much doubt you watched.
No.
It was on TGIF, so I watched it a lot. But yeah, she's in like the first episode of Flight of the Conchords when they do "You're so beautiful, you could be a waitress." She's the girl.
Yeah. Obviously, we recognize Kenan Thompson from SNL and other things from the 90s, obviously. Juliana Margulies, was she on that Good Wife show yet? Or was this just...
I think this is probably a little bit before that show started, but this is genuinely, I think, the only movie I've ever seen her in.
like movie? She's
Movie.
always been a TV
She
show
is a
gal.
TV person. I can't even name any other movies she is in.
Okay. Well, you had also mentioned Taylor Kitsch. He's probably in one of these extra scenes that they filmed after the fact, because he's in this scene with this, I don't know, blonde bimbo. They go into the bathroom to smoke weed and have sex, and they're the first two who actually get bit.
I said, Trent, they were the first to go because they tampered with the smoke detector, and they make that announcement very abundantly on the plane. You're not supposed to do that, so they got what was coming to them.
Fair point. I cannot argue against that. David Koechner as the other pilot. We always love David Koechner.
He just kind of plays this character and everything.
Yeah,
But
he fits, though.
usually it fits. If he's been cast, it's the energy they're looking for.
Yeah. And I'm kind of racking my brain here. I don't think I recognized anybody else, but I honestly think that's about all you need. You only need a few people to really care about. You only need to learn a few different names.
But here's the thing. I didn't really know their names. And even though the people I recognized, a lot of them did die, like that guy you mentioned from Dead Like Me.
He died, yeah.
He made it. He didn't make it to the end of the movie.
Right.
But they told you just enough, and we spent just enough time with each of these characters that you're like, who's gonna die? Who's gonna die? Oh no, the married couple is dead. Oh no, that older flight attendant, she saved that baby's life,
Right.
and now she's dead.
And that's a really sad moment in fucking Snakes on a Plane. As we keep saying, Betsy, this movie is better than it has any right to be in so many different aspects.
Like the snakes, do they look real? Most of the time, no. You can identify the fake ones.
That's the thing, though. You don't need them to look real. What you need to do is blend them into the environment so that you believe their movements. One other thing that we had read here is that the giant boa constrictor, they had a real one on set here, plus an animatronic one that wrapped around the business guy.
When they first introduced it and it's like up in the glass and then falls through the glass,
Yeah.
you could tell by the way it's moving. I was like, okay, that looks like a real snake.
And they did have other real snakes on set here because you could see them actually interacting with the environment. When the boa constrictor is on the ground, it is moving that fake glass around. So again, you just need some kind of believability here as something tangible in order to blend in with all the fake shit.
And then, of course, at the end of the movie, when they punch a hole in the window and everything starts getting sucked out, you got to see that boa constrictor with the man inside get
Yeah.
sucked out the window.
Oh, such a great callback. I don't need to know how the snake did that. It's a funny visual gag.
And that's most of the movie. It's just stupid little jokes, little visual gags, little things that it's like, that's insane, but it's because it's supposed to be insane. It doesn't need to be real. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to make sense. They go and get a snake expert, and he's like, you're not being specific enough. I need to know every snake and what they do and what the venom would be and the anti-venom that will help them. And it's just like, what? Who is this
You know
guy?
what? I believed him because he is a scientist. He needs to be accurate. He needs to know all these different things because there are so many kinds of snakes and so many kinds of venom.
As a scientist, I lend believability to snakes on a plane.
That's my job.
That's my job.
But you know what? If they didn't have this extra aspect of it being off the plane, you know, talking to the other FBI guy, him going to get the snake expert and them going after the snake guy who is breeding all these fuckers, I feel like the ending is less satisfying because you don't get these groups coming back together. The good movies and all these other genres we're talking about do exactly this. You bring everybody back together, even though you just witnessed mass death in front of you, it's still a happy ending.
You're all bonded by what you went through, And you all get to live happily ever after.
And still somehow horny.
Still horny. You got to ask that woman out for a
Juliet
date.
and Sam Jackson are going to go on a date.
I'm glad they didn't kiss, though, because that would have just been really annoying to me.
Yeah.
We didn't need it,
Nope.
and I'm glad they resisted that urge. So, Trent, I have one more just little nitpicky thing that I could have done without. Every one of these animal attack movies at a certain point shows us the perspective of the creature that is attacking. Like, we see it from their point of view, except the birds, I guess we kind of got one where we're flying with the group. We didn't see it from inside their head. All of the rest, I think, did it. But with snakes on a plane, they have snake vision. It's like warbly and green, and there's like a sound effect that happens.
They have fucking predator vision.
Why did we need that? I didn't need that in this movie. I could have just gone with you're from the perspective of the snake and play a little like slithering sound effect. I would have gotten it. I wouldn't need the extra thing.
Yeah, just put the camera low to the ground and move it around ever so slightly. Then I'll know, hey, I'm a snake.
I'm a snake. I'm a snake.
But like, I don't really know why they did that. Is that literally what snake vision looks like?
How would we know?
I don't know this.
We wouldn't know that.
But Betsy, I think if you're going to really complain, what you should be complaining about is each snake vision is all the same. And I'm sure every species of snake has a different kind of a sight. So come at it from a scientific point of view, then you can complain.
As a scientist, I would like to protest that all snakes see exactly the same.
Betsy, you actually have a friend who what is she anyway? What is her title? I know she works in Florida looking after like amphibians and like other kinds of reptiles and shit.
I don't know what her title is. She works for like, or has worked at least for like some state forest department, whatever you call that.
Yeah.
In Florida.
Yeah. She actually is an animal scientist.
She is a biologist by trade. Snakes are not her thing. She's more of an amphibian lover herself.
Sure.
But I bet she would have some opinions about snakes on a plane.
I think we need to look her up, and maybe you should send this episode to her.
And say, I need some science. As a scientist, I
Yes.
need you to tell me.
Please, write into us.
If nothing else, I'll bet she knows a snake guy.
Sure.
It is Florida. It's a very invasive thing. This is totally a non sequitur, but
Okay.
she told me a while ago, because Florida has so many invasive species of snakes, there is a certain month of the year where people are encouraged to go and like hunt this specific kind of snake and bring them back to the department, and then they get a head count of how many snakes they killed that year. People are encouraged to kill as many of them as possible because they are fucking up the ecosystem. It is like a fucking snake bashing holiday that they have. It's really bizarre.
It's like Whacking Day in The Simpsons.
Basically.
Hot damn.
It's not even made up. I'm telling you, she told me this and I was like, that is an insane thing, but I understand why they have to do it because it's Florida and they don't belong there.
What I want to know is, in the scientific community that studies stuff like this, do they watch Snakes on a Plane and have a good time, or do they cringe throughout the entire thing?
Do they just have too many problems with how did you get all these exotic snakes and they would all be attacking each other?
Are
And
they
here's
like
why.
that scientist who is just being very dismissive, like, you couldn't possibly have all these snakes in one area, they're not from North America? Or can they actually have a good time watching it? I want to know. But anyway, Snakes on a Plane. Man, I would absolutely watch this movie again. This was a great time.
It's absolutely bonkers in the best possible way. Like, it shouldn't be a good movie, but as I said, this is arguably the best movie from top to bottom that we watched the entire month. The way it is written, the way you actually get me to care about all of these people. It's not trying to be anything other than what it is.
Yep.
Yes, there are plot holes, but what movie doesn't have plot holes? I'm just being nitpicky because I thought of it and it was bothering me.
And we are a movie podcast. We
Yes.
can't help ourselves.
But also, I am completely fine overlooking all of that because I was screaming and giggling and having such fun watching this absurd movie.
Betsy, I think I have heard you laugh this month for this series of movies louder than I have in any other series of movies we've ever done.
I have been laughing and screaming most of the month because of the movies that we chose.
Yes.
And they're all for all the right reasons. I love it. This month was so much fun. I am really glad we did this series because, we do the Oscar movies and I cry and I cry and I cry. And now I get to laugh and laugh and laugh. It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it is very much a hard reset from really being analytical and talking about the greatest acting performances and writing and lighting and cinematography to just having fun.
Who gives a fuck? Let's let some snakes loose on an airplane.
Fuck yeah.
But with that, I think we're going to wrap up When Animals Attack. We would still love to hear from all of you, dear listeners. Which of these 5 is your favorite Animal Attack movie? Which ones that we didn't cover should we have watched? Because I'll tell you right now, we had another snake movie. You mentioned it, Anaconda. We could have done that one.
Yep. We could have also covered the brand new Anaconda movie that just came out this year.
The animal kingdom is quite diverse, and the movies about those animals attacking are abundant. So send us which ones should we watch. Tell us what you thought about these movies. Email us neverseenitpod@gmail.com. We've got one short email here from our superfan Stephanie about the movie we did a couple weeks ago when we watched Cocaine Bear. She says, "This movie was ridiculous. It was very funny, but I agree with Trent to an extent. I want more of the bear, more attacks, and more of the kids.
Yep.
The kids stole the show, and that is saying something in a movie that goes this hard." That's all I got. Love you guys from Superfan Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. And yeah, I reiterate, I didn't hate Cocaine Bear. I just wanted it to go as hard as snakes on a plane. And maybe that's what they were trying to do with Cocaine Bear. In fact, I'm really curious why we haven't seen more movies of this type, where you get some recognizable actors who are really game to do something fucking stupid. You get good writers, a good director, good cinematography, you get a little bit of a budget, and make a dumbass movie like Snakes on a Plane. Why haven't we seen this more?
If you could get them to do it for like a back-end profit off of the movie, maybe you could. I think the budget is probably the problem. In 2006, you could get away with making a $33 million movie where Sam Jackson was probably the most expensive person in the entire cast.
Yep.
Now you're going to be hard-pressed to get somebody of his caliber to do a movie like this, knowing it's probably not going to be released in the theater. Normally, you would give them a back-end deal where they would get a percentage of the profits. But if it's not in the theater, it's not going to make any fucking money.
You're right. Movies like this these days go directly to Netflix or Hulu or whatever the fuck. It's a one-time payment for making the movie. Thank you very much for the content. We're going to move on to the next thing. But it goes back to what we have talked about before. There need to be more lower budget movies and fewer big budget movies that they have to make a fucking $1 billion on. Take your $100, $200 million, divide that up into a lot of different chunks. You have much more opportunities to make money with a whole lot of people working on them.
These mid-budget movies are also objectively the most fun. They're the most fun. They're the funniest. They're the ones that tend to last more than the big budget ones.
And I think what studios really appreciate is how quickly you can crank them out. And sometimes that's a bad thing. You don't want to crank out these movies, but you also don't want to spend 2-3 years creating a fucking Marvel movie that takes forever to do in post-production.
Or rush through it and get it out faster, but it looks like shit.
Yeah. I know it's a balancing act. I just want more movies of this caliber out there. Because at its core, going to the movies should be fun. And this was a lot of fun.
This was so much fun. So thank you again to Stephanie for emailing us. If you would like to be like our super fan, you can email us neverseenitpod@gmail.com. If you want to message us another way, you can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. We're on TikTok, YouTube. Just follow the link in our episode description and you can get to all of those platforms.
Including our brand new Letterboxd. You guys have demanded it from us. We are now on Letterboxd. We announced that in our 5-year anniversary special that came out a couple of weeks ago. We promised in that episode that we were going to go back and rate all of the movies that we have covered for this show. Eventually. It's going to take us some time. But go follow us on Letterboxd. It is Never Seen It Pod on Letterboxd.
You can also find us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/neverseenitpod, where for just $5 a month, you can get over 2 years of additional episodes. But that is it for March. That is all of the animal attacks that we had planned for you. But next month, we're going to have a brand new series. Trent, what will we be doing in April? And what is our movie next week?
Well, stop me if you've heard this before, but did you know that there are other forms of entertainment other than movies? Have you heard of this thing called music? Sometimes they make movies about music.
That's a wild concept. Tell me more.
I know. Next month is going to be called I'm with the Band. And to start off, we're going to be covering Josie and the Pussycats.
Talk about another movie that I definitely should have seen by now, and yet I haven't.
Yeah.
So come back next week when we finally both watch Josie and the Pussycats. But until then, this has been Never Seen It. My name is Betsy.
My name's Trent.
We'll see you then.
See ya.